Today's heart journal assignment has to do with connecting our initial impressions and feelings that we have in response to newspaper articles, current events, and then connecting them to our emotions after we've reflected and recollected those articles for at least 20 or 30 minutes. So let's think about this. Okay, get out your journal. Let's either sit in front of the internet or get out a newspaper or a magazine. And I'd like you to find 5 different articles and their headlines. I'd like you to just peruse them quickly. Just read the headlines, maybe glance at the images, and then I'd like you to write down the headline, then write down the emotional response that you had immediately. Write down that immediate initial emotional response. Now, I'd like you to go back to each one of those articles, and I'd like you to read them fairly carefully. Ideally, they're not long articles. They're like, 200, 300 words, just a column or something like that. Then I'd like you to sort of go off and do other things, but keep those headlines and those articles, those things that you read, in your mind. Contemplate them, think about them, kind of let them percolate, let them blend together. And I'd like you to go back to your heart journal. Locate each one of those articles, and then in a third column, I'd like you to write what your emotional state is and what you think about, how you react to those after contemplating them for 30 minutes. So you'll have 3 columns. The first column, you'll have the names of the articles. Article 1, Article 2, Article 3, Article 4. Then the second column, put your response, initial response. Article 1, initial response. Article 2, initial response. Article 3, initial responses, and so on. Then later, 20 or 30 minutes later, I'd like you to go and say Article 1, and you'll see initial response. Then start in that other place. That's not the initial response. It's for the delayed response. I'd like you to write down your delayed response in Article 2. Article 2, you'll see your initial, then write down your delayed response. Now, do those and do them as carefully as you can. And after you finish, I'd like you to go back and look to see if there is any difference between your initial response and your delayed response. Now the point of this is that this is one way we become out of touch with our feelings and our hearts. What we do is we look at the emotions and the context and we intellectualize so that we distance ourselves away from that initial emotion. I'm not talking about whether or not you have a belief in something. I'm talking about the emotion. And also, you can see how you can whip yourself into an emotional frenzy after you think about something. So here's direct evidence that thoughts create emotions. They can create positive emotions, and they can cause negative or destructive emotions. This is kind of the case in point. What does obsession do to us? So without interpreting it too much, I just want you to go back and do that, and let's talk about this later.